Hello YouTube and welcome to another Ships of the Naval Action episode, and today we will be taking a look at Pandora, also known in the history as HMS Pandora. It was a 24-gun Porcupine class 6th rate post ship of the Royal Navy, launched in May 1779. She's best known as the ship sent in 1790 to search for the bounty mutineers. The Pandora was partially successful by capturing 14 of the mutineers, but was wrecked on the Great Barrier Reef on the return voyage in 1791. The Pandora is considered to be one of the most significant shipwrecks in the Southern Hemisphere. Her first service was in the Channel during the 1779 threatened invasion by the combined fleets of France and Spain. She was deployed in North American waters during the American War of Independence and saw service as a convoy escort between England and Quebec. On the 18th July 1790, while under the command of Captain Anthony Perry, she and Danae captured the American privateer Jack. Then on the 2nd September, the two British vessels captured the American privateer Terrible. On the 14th January, Pandora captured the brig Janie. Then on 11th of March, it captured the ship Mercury. 2 days later, Pandora and HMS Belisarius were off the Capes of Virginia when they captured the sloop Louis, which has been sailing with Virginia to a cargo of cider and onions. Under the Captain John Inglis, Pandora captured more merchant vessels. The first was the brig Lively on the 24th May 1782. More followed the ship Mercury and the sloops Port Royal and Superb, the brig Nestor and the ship Financier, and at the end of the American War, Admiral placed Pandora in ordinary, basically mothballing her, and 1783 at the Chatham for 7 years. A little bit about the voyage in the search of bounty. Pandora was ordered to be brought back into the service on the 30th of June 1790, when the war with England and Spain seems likely due to the Nootka crisis. However, in the early August 1790, 5 months after the learning of the mutiny on the HMS Bounty, the First Lord of the Admiralty, John Pitt, 2nd Earl of Chatham, decided to dispatch her to recover the bounty, capture the mutineers, and return them to England for trial. She was refitted and her 9-pounder guns were reduced to 20 in number, though she gained 4 18-pounder carronades. Pandora sailed from the Solent on the 7th November 1790, commanded by Captain Edward Edwards, oh interesting, and manned by the crew of 134 men. With this crew, Thomas Hayward, who has been on the Bounty at the same time of the mutiny and has left with Bligh in the open boat. At Tahiti, they were also assisted by John Brown, who had been left on the island by the English merchant ship, the Mercury. Unknown to Edwards, 12 of the mutineers, together with 4 of the crew, had stayed loyal to Bligh, had by then already elected to return to Tahiti after a failed attempt to establish a colony, Fort St. George, under the Fletcher Christian's leadership on Tubai, one of the Austral Islands. The disaffected men were leaving Tahiti as beachcombers, and many of them fathered children with local women. Fletcher Christian's group of mutineers and their Polynesian followers had sailed off and eventually established their settlement on the uncharted Pitcairn Island. By the time of Pandora's arrival, 14 of the former bounty men remained on Tahiti, Charles Churchill having been murdered in a quarrel with Matthew Thompson, who was in turn killed by the Polynesians, who considered Churchill their king. The Pandora reached Tahiti on the 23rd March of 1791 via Cape Horn. 3 men came under surrender to Edwards shortly after Pandora's arrival. These were Joseph Coleman, the Bounty's armourer, and Peter Haywood and George Stewart, midshipmen. Edwards then dispatched the search parties to round up the remainder. Able seaman Richard Skinner was apprehended on the day of Pandora's arrival. By now alerted to Edwards' presence, the other bounty men fled to the mountains, while James Morrison, Charles Norman, and Thomas Ellison tried to reach the Pandora to surrender in the escape boat they had built. All were eventually captured and brought back to Pandora on the 29th of March. An 8th man, the half-blind Michael Byrne, who had been fiddling aboard the Bounty, had also come aboard by this time. It was not recorded whether he has been captured or had handed himself in. Edwards conducted further searches over the next week and a half, and on a Saturday 2 more men were brought aboard Pandora, Henry Hillbrant and Thomas McIntosh. The remaining 4 men, Thomas Burkett, John Milward, John Summer and William Muspratt, were brought in the following day. These 14 men were locked up in a makeshift prison cell measuring 11 by 18 feet on the Pandora's quarterdeck, which they called Pandora's box. On the 18th of May 1781, Pandora left Tahiti and subsequently spent 3 months visiting islands of the Southwest Pacific in search for the Bounty and remaining mutineers, without finding any traces of the pirated vessel. During the part of the voyage, 14th crew went missing in 2 of the ship's boats. In the meantime, Pandora visited Tokelau, Samoa, Tonga, and Rotuma. They also passed the Vanikoro Island, which Edwards named Pitt's Island, but they did not stop to explore the islands and investigate obvious signs of habitation. If they had done so, they would have probably have discovered early evidence on the fate of the French Pacific explorer La Perouse expedition, which has disappeared in 1788. From the later accounts about their fate, it was evident that a substantial number of the crew survived the cyclone that wrecked ships around Astrolabe, Busol, and Vanikoro's fringing reef. Heading west, then a little bit about the wreckage. Heading west, making for the Torres Strait, the ship ran aground on the 29th August 1791 on the outer Greater Barrier Reef. She sank the next morning, claiming the lives of 35 men, 31 crew, and 4 of the mutineers. The remainder of the ship's company, 89 crew and 10 prisoners, 7 of whom were released from the cells as the ship sank, assembled on the small Tree class and sent Cay. After 2 nights on the island, they sailed for Timor in 4 open boats, arriving in Kupang on 16 September 1781 after an arduous voyage across the Arafura Sea. 16 more died after surviving the wreck, having men fallen ill due to their sojourn to Batavia in Jakarta. Eventually, only 78 of the 130 men who had been aboard the departure returned home. Captain Edwards and his officers were exonerated for the loss of the Pandora after a court-martial. No attempt was made by the colonial authorities to salvage the material from the wreck. The 10 surviving prisoners were also tried. The various court-martial had found 4 of them innocent for the mutiny, and although there were 6 were found guilty, only 3 were executed. Milward, Bucket, and Ellison, who were executed on 29th October 1792 on board the man-of-war Brunswick at Portsmouth. Peter Heywood and James Morrison received a royal pardon, while William Muspratt was acquitted on the legal technicality. Descendants of the 9 mutineers now discovered by the Pandora still live in the Pitcairn Island, the refuge Fletcher Christian founded in January 1790, where they burnt and scuttled then the Bounty a few weeks after arrival. Their hiding place was not discovered in 1808, when the New England sailor Topaz happened on the tiny uncharted island. By then, all of the mutineers except John Adams were dead, most of them having died under violent circumstances. The wreck site of the Pandora is located approximately 5 km northwest of the Moulter Cay, on the outer Great Barrier Reef on the edge of the Coral Sea. It is one of the best preserved shipwrecks in Australian waters. It has been made on 15th November 1977 by the independent explorers Ben Corp, Steve Drum and John Heyer. John Heyer, an Australian documentary filmmaker, had predicted the position of the wreck based on his research in the National Maritime Museum, Greenwich. His discovery expedition was launched with the help of the Steve Dom, a boat owner and naturalist, and the Royal Australian Air Force. Using the built-in sensors of the RAF, the magnetic anomaly caused by the wreck was detected and the flares were laid down near the coordinates predicted by John Heyer. Ben Kropp, an Australian television filmmaker, gained knowledge of the Heyer's expedition and decided to launch his own search with the intention of following Heyer by the boat. In this way, Ben Kropp found the Pandora wreck just before John Heyer's boat did. The wreck was actually sighted by a diver called Ron Bell of the Bet Corp's boat. After the wreck site was located, it was immediately declared a protected site under Australian Historic Shipwrecks Act 1706, and the 1978 Ben Kropp and Steve Dom shared a $10,000 reward for finding the wreck. The Queensland Museum excavated the wreck for 9 occasions between 1983 and 1989. Sorry about that. In the course of the 9 seasons excavation during the 1980s and 1990s, the Museum Marine Archaeological team established that approximately but 30% of the hull is still intact. The vessel came to rest at a depth of between 30 and 33 meters, gently sloping on a sandy bottom, slightly inclined to the starboard. Consequently, more of the starboard side has been preserved than the port side of the hull. Approximately 1/3 of the seabed which the wreck was buried has been excavated by the Queensland Museum, leaving approximately 350 square meters for future excavations. So that's a little bit about the Pandora in the history. A little bit about the Pandora in the actual naval action. She's a beautiful ship. There is no doubt about that, and she is mostly equipped for commerce raiding, I would say. As you can see on the apparent side, she has roughly 40 guns. Oh, and that was a nice shot, by the way. However, most of her cannons, to be specific, around 22 of her cannons are the more potent carronades. I think I was sporting here, I'm not sure if I sported 32 pounder or I think it was 32 pounder carronades. And I used 9 pounders for the chasers longs in terms of chain shot. And the rest of the cannons are basically, well, the swivel guns mostly. So when it comes to the armament, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. She has a battle rating of 100, which is very low, even worse than the HMS Surprise or the Renommee or something like that. So she is more equipped to handle such engagements. But when you're doing a commerce raiding, you're expecting to be fighting snows, you're expecting to be fighting traders, brigs, and these kind of things. So, and in that case, you're mainly expected to first shoot chain to disable the sails, and then grape to basically scrub the deck of the enemy vessel. And in that role, she is quite potent. Sadly, I don't have the footage where I actually managed to capture a brig with her. And obviously that makes sense because she's a 5th rate and the brig is a 6th rate, but she's pretty maneuverable and decent at that. While when we come to fighting a more potent ship like this frigate that you can see me engaging, she is really an underdog. You get an impression from her buttload of swivel guns that she could make a dent. However, if you compare the frigate's armor, it's just too tough. You really have to get in close, and all the swivel guns in the world don't make jack for that. So what she doesn't make up in firepower or armament, she does make a little bit in maneuverability. As you can see, you do circles around this frigate, and ultimately my goal wasn't really to, destroy this frigate. It was more to just, for the fun of it, of showing the ship, try to do as much dismasting as possible of the frigate, and then see if I could grape it down and hopefully, do a spark behind it and stern rake it to the death. However, that required a little bit more prolonged engagement than I would originally have wanted. And long story short, I'm not sure that the way it went all that successful. So I don't want to post any spoilers, so feel free to watch the video till the end. But as I said, I think it's nice that we have gotten this as a DLC from the developers, from being the early birds. I can definitely see a clear role for the Pandora in naval action as a commerce raider. But if I were to engage, and this was actually a mission where I had to kill a 5th rate, I would most definitely not use her for such a purpose because, well, she doesn't excel in anything else than commerce raiding, I would say. So if I had to engage this this frigate again, I would have probably selected my Endymion, who is a total and utter beast comparing to it. But the battle rating of the ship is accurate, the crew is generous enough that would allow me, even if I had graped the frigate to death, to be able to board it. However, most of you that know me know that I'm pretty much a complete noob and sucker at boarding actions, so I really don't prefer that type of gameplay. I'm just straight out guns blazing till you or the opponent dies, which ultimately in many cases leads to my untimely demise and my frequent visits to Mr. Davy Jones. Alright, so let's see how did we do in this engagement. So we have dismasted her, gotten rid of her main mast, but with the foremast and the mizzen mast she is still quite potent combatant, despite the fact that she has been crippled. So I was trying to basically get her rid of either the foremast or the mizzen mast, one of the two. I didn't care which. So that's why you will see me broadsiding her and basically trying to make sure that at least something gets out. So yeah, a lot to the sails, some to the mast, and I was just hoping to take it down at some point. Alright, then I decided to go all hard to starboard. And basically keep... The name of the game here was more, not really a turning contest, more like jousting. You know, come in, drop your load and get out. So that was basically the tactics that I was hoping to imply. However, frigate, or aka Cherubim, has very potent cannons and shouldn't be taken lightly. So yeah, as you can see, I'm basically just trying to unload as much as I can into the masts, but still she refuses to drop the mast. And now she is turning her cannons towards me, which means I should tuck tail and run. It's not that I prefer turning my stern to the frigate, which is utterly a bad idea. However, I know the AI is a terrible shot in most cases, and I'm using that opportunity to present as small target as possible to the enemy. If I was fighting player, I would have probably just shot the sails and tuck tail and run. In this case, because yeah, Pandora, it's not really, as I said, a fighting ship. So if you want to use it for commerce raiding, use it for, you know, attacking smaller, faster ships, you know, scrub the deck off the crew and just capping the ships. For that role, I believe she will do pretty nicely. As you can see, I'm just trying to make some distance between me and the frigate before the frigate fires its cannons. And as you can see from one pass that I was able to make, I did put some damage on her. However, given the style of my fighting, I cannot go broadside to broadside. And if I want to go directly broadside to broadside, I would definitely pay the price and sink rather quickly. So this ship requires a different style of fighting when fighting a superior vessel. If I was having my Endymion, I would just go and broadside the crap out of Elijah. But yeah, okay, so popping up a repair, turning off the cannons to have enough crew to do so. That should increase my survivability a bit. And now I'm trying to basically fool this guy, making him believe that I'm gonna go to port, when in fact I am turned hard to starboard and then turning around, hoping for another joust pass because my cannons have reloaded. I mean, for a naval action ship, she sports an unusual high amount of swivel guns. And I believe that's why she has her role. Do please post in the comments below, what do you think about her role? Do you think that it's inaccurate? Do you think, have you found other uses for her? I'm really interested to hear your opinions on the Pandora. And I mean, the beauty of her we don't need to discuss. I mean, all of the ships in Naval Action are gorgeous. And Pandora is really no exception to this. Yeah, some more shots to the sail. I mean, his sails are not going nowhere. He's at 44%. So he's an unmaneuverable lump, but he can still use his 2 sails that he has for an effective turning. As you can see him doing that. Now, I'm thinking that I should probably do a pass. So I'm gonna swing hard to starboard. And then probably are gonna do very hard to port right after it. Oh, and he's turning to starboard. Good. That opens up his stern to me, and I'm hoping to stern rake him. So I'm going for his stern. And as you can see, he is firing, but he's for the most part missing. That wasn't too bad now, was it? Okay, getting ready. Aim. And fire. Hull cannon crew. See, but I'm guessing, as you can see, the amount of damage that I did, even with the direct stern rake and a lot of shots landing, more experienced people would say too little too late. I mean, it's never too late, but yeah. It would really help if I could dismast her. At least one more sail, because then she's pretty much dead in the water. She cannot move and actually can just arrive at her stern, park, and then basically broadside her to the death. Going hard to port. And I'm using the fact that I'm more maneuverable now than he is, so going for another joust or pass, or call it whatever you want. Alright, another sail shot. Fire. Just one to the mast. Okay, getting ready for another stern rake broadside. And you see, now he started to turn hard to starboard. And that is actually messing up my plans, because I don't have a good path on him. How to pass him in order to be able to, you know, stern rake him. So I started turning hard to port, which is forcing me to go into the wind. Which is not really a great idea all that much. But okay. Convergence 100 meters, and let's see if we can, you know, take something here. Now I'm gonna gamble and turn hard to starboard and hope that I can still catch her off her guard and do another stern rake on Elijah. And come on, turn, turn, turn. Well, this is not really a stern rake, but I'll take what I can get. Yeah, and most of the cannonballs bouncing, sadly. This was a terrible shot, and now I have put myself in danger. And he clearly capitalized on that. Look at that. See, this is what happens when you get in front of his cannons. That's something that I shouldn't have done. So yeah, that was kind of a huge mistake on my end. But what can you do? Sorry about that, guys. My mobile sometimes just is very persistent. Alright, so let's see if I can now turn hard to port. I mean, he has fired, and no, he already reloaded. Damn it. I was hoping to go for hard to port and another stern rake attempt. It's, I mean, not a good position because he is firing his cannons at me, which is, well, fortunately for me, he is missing for the most part, but still. Now each shot that lands is potentially spells potentially my demise, because his cannons are very potent. And as you can see, yeah, oh boy. Okay, well, that was unfortunate. Okay, and fire. Well, this is unfortunate. I'm really concerned that my ship is gonna start sprunging leaks, because my structure is almost gone, and oh, and he fired another couple. Oh, okay. Well, guys, I think I'm afraid that this will be game over sooner rather than later, because, yeah, with this little structure, I don't think I have a way to repair it just yet. And, yeah, she's already taking in water. So, despite the fact that I really wanted to get rid of her, well, sadly, I'm afraid she will be turning out victorious this time. Then again, I'm thinking maybe I should be considering capturing her. Maybe that wouldn't be such a bad idea. She has 224, I have 183. So, numbers wise, she's still superior, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe give it another broadside, see what happens out of it. Let's see if I can make another pass at her, and at least I would really want to take this foremast. Fire. Mast shock. Oh, shock. Does that mean that the mast is gone? Oh, yes it is. Look. Well, I mean, we are sinking, but as a consolation prize, at least we have reduced this frigate to a rowboat. Almost. Yeah, I'm afraid there's not much I can do. She's starting to sink, and yeah, my crews are not able to. So I will switch the crew to maybe boarding parties, but I believe that this chapter of the story of my HMS Pandora has been already written, with the end going into the U-boat section. So yeah, 3.23.5 minutes to the next repair. I will be long in the Davy Jones locker by then. So yeah, I'm afraid that this battle has been more or less concluded, and the ship is going so slow that I cannot really hope to intercept her. I am firing what little cannons I have available, but I doubt it will do much difference. Alright guys, so this was a presentation of HMS Pandora for you. I figured it might be interesting to show one-on-one combat, even with such an ending. Well, what can you do? I think this is a good picture for the HMS Pandora. Well, you know what to do, guys. As always, like if you like the episode, hit subscribe for more naval action content, let me know what you would like to see, and I will be seeing you all in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. This is GrunfWorks, sinking out.